Welcome to Bible Study with Fred. Today I'm in Proverbs 12, verse 10, and making some comments. Hope you'll follow along with me. Now, a righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Here is one of the clearest verses in the Bible about how God views cruelty to animals. Those who are wicked, even their mercies, their tender mercies, are cruel. Note here how King David takes the prophet Nathan's story, which is about David actually, but told in a way to make David think it is about a literal situation. 2 Samuel 12:1 to 6. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom. It was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was to come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, As the Lord liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. One of the signs of evil in a person today has been noted by the fact that as a child they were cruel to animals, even torturing and killing them. Neglect is also cruelty. If you can't afford reasonable medical care for your pet, then you can't afford a pet. Too many parents in our day and age take getting a pet for a child with too little thought and have no problem discarding that pet if it's not convenient. This is evidence of a wicked heart. In our factory food raising conditions today, there are some companies who, for the purpose of public goodwill, claim to be humane in their handling of animals raised for slaughter. Others, if some videos are to be believed, are cruel and hateful in the way they treat their animals. I deliberately choose to buy meat from the former. Upon what model did God create animals? We know that we were created in the image of God. God created great whales, which are likened to Satan, and what modern science has called dinosaurs, which are likened to Satan as well. Genesis 1:21. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Read Job 41 carefully. This is Satan, the king over the children of pride. This is not merely a description of a dinosaur, which perhaps was a giant reptile who wouldn't have a clue what a king was. Also note the following verses. Psalm 74:14. Thou breakest the heads of the Leviathans in pieces, and gavest them the meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Psalm 104:26. There go the ships, there is that Leviathan which thou hast made to play therein. Isaiah 27:1. In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan the piercing serpent, even Leviathan that crooked serpent. He shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. There are cherubim, not the Roman Catholics' fat little babies with wings, but animal creatures in the spirit world. Read the description of the cherubim in Ezekiel 1 and 10, chapters 1 and 10, and then surrounding the throne, Revelation 4, where they are called the four beasts, but by their appearance as winged creatures, you know what they are, linking them with the appearances in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 10:15. And the cherubims were lifted up. This is the living creature that I saw by the river of Chebar. Revelation 4:6. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. In the midst of the throne, around about the throne, were four beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had the face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. Satan was at one time one of these with a specific purpose. Ezekiel 28:14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down the midst of the stones of fire. Even the pagan Plato knew all things in the physical world have their original counterpart in the spiritual. And yes, there are animals in the spirit world. 2 Kings 6:17. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. And finally, no, the reference in Revelation 22:15 is not about bow wows, but about male false teachers, as in see in 2 Peter 2. I'm not going to read Job 41 aloud or 2 Peter, but just read the context. We already know that Gentiles were called dogs as well. The dog of Deuteronomy 23:18 is a male temple prostitute. Note the context and then extra biblical sources, as in some circles, the slang today for a male homosexual prostitute is a dog still. Deuteronomy 23:18, thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord thy God for any vow, for even both these are abomination unto the Lord thy God. Now there's so much about animals in the physical and spiritual worlds we could talk about, but let me get back to the verse. Cruelty to animals is unacceptable to God. They have no rights in themselves and are for our use as food, labor, and companionship, as well as guards. Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. But you have obligations to them under God's authority. The person who is cruel to an animal or neglectful is a wicked person. And I want to make a point here about what I just said about animals have no rights. There, in our legal system, in our Constitution, and in the history behind it, a person or an individual or an entity can't have a right unless they have a corresponding duty. In other words, the Second Amendment says you have a right to bear arms, but you don't have a right to go out and terrorize your neighbors with your weapons. Okay, so you have a right to free speech, but you don't have a right to, um, the old saw, scream, fire, crowded movie theater. You have a duty that corresponds with a right. An animal or a person who's incapacitated, maybe from birth, mentally, doesn't have the capacity to understand a duty or a right. But we have an obligation to those who are weaker than us. We have an obligation to those who aren't conscious or are as conscious as we are or who have trouble functioning. Animals do what they're supposed to do. They are what they are, and they have no capacity to play into that. They have a right and a corresponding duty. You have to really dig into our history, constitutional history, to understand that. Today, because of communism in our country and influences of socialism and communism, we've got this idea that rights are something that carry no responsibility with them. They're just ours, and that's not correct. That's why I wanted to clear that up about the animals as far as not having rights. But we have obligations to them under God's authority. So just you don't have to agree with me. I don't expect you to agree with me or anybody to agree with me everything I say, but I want you to consider that. So please read your Bible, study your Bible, cross-reference the verses, and pray to God for wisdom and understanding. And then share your interpretation with someone else. Make comments. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Comment on it in the comments if you like. And hope you'll consider clicking like and subscribe or follow. Thank you.